Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the 3D Critic channel. Today I'm going to give you guys my performance review on the Nike Sabrina 3s. This is Sabrina Ionescu's third signature shoe with Nike. And as far as the line goes from the 1 to the 2, it was a pretty solid improvement, and I was hoping for the same trend when it came to the 3s. The 2s, to me, they're pretty much the best when it comes to the overall package that you get, especially for the price that you get, which is really on the budget side of things. With really solid traction, cushioning was very nice. Materials were on the cheaper side of things, but they were pretty comfortable at the end of the day, along with the lockdown and decent support to boot. So with the 3s, I was curious to see if there were going to be any adjustments to be made as far as improving from the 2 to the 3 and anything in between when it comes down to it. As far as retail goes, these do retail for $135. However, there are other colorways where they are on discount for around $115. So if you guys are interested, I will leave links down below in the description box. So for the sizing, whatever you typically wore in the Sabrina 2s, you should be fine doing in the Sabrina 3s because they fit exactly the same, with the width being nice and snug and conformed when it comes to the width of the shoe. The length does run a little long, just like the Sabrina 2s, so it's very similar when it comes to the Sabrina 2s compared to the 3s. So if you want a more performance-like fit, I would probably go down half the size. For narrow footers, you should probably do the same as well. For wide footers, you should be fine going true to size, maybe go up a half size because it is a little snug at first. Once you start breaking it in, it does open up a little bit more once you break it in because of the flexibility of the materials. But overall, whatever you wore in the Sabrina 2s, you should be fine in the Sabrina 3s. The outsole features a full-length rubber outsole with 2 radial patterns here in the forefoot as well as in the heel, which basically combine a bunch of S's radiating throughout the forefoot with a little bit on the sides of the midfoot and radiating in the heel section as well. Now, the grip on the first day was not great when it came down to it. When it was clean right out of the box, it had a very hard time getting any traction, whether it was any lateral movements or vertical movements. So that was a little bit of an issue that I had to deal with. But when it came to the next day and with some warming up when it came to the rubber itself, it actually performs very well and very similar to these Sabrina 2s, where for lateral movements, they felt really nice and grippy going side to side. Vertical movements, they felt really good on hard stops, so you're able to stop on a dime, and you do get a pretty decent launch on your first step, so you're going to be nice and quick on your first step. When it came to dust, it does pick up dust, unfortunately, so you do have to consistently wipe them down just to get some consistent grip under you. So that is a little bit of annoyance when it came to dust pickup. So if you are on a dusty court, make sure you have to consistently wipe them. That way you get consistent grip laterally and vertically. The durability is pretty decent at the end of the day. You are going to get some bald spots here on the lateral sides of the forefoot itself, with a little bit of fraying here on the top of the toe box and a little bit of wear of the S's in general, with a little bit of fraying here, and it maintains the same consistency when it comes to the wear in the back half of the shoe as well. So you should be fine to play in these indoors for the long run. However, I would avoid these outdoors because the rubber itself is very soft and very pliable. So as long as you keep these indoors, durability wise, these should be fine. So overall, these really do live up to the Sabrina 2s when it comes to the grip that you're going to get, but you do have to break them in quite a bit, especially with the rubber warm up and the dust pickup that you're going to get as well. Now, the cushioning is essentially a carryover from the Sabrina 2s, where you get a full-length Cushlon midsole along with a air zoom unit in the forefoot, along with a top-loaded TPU shank plate. Now, for the most part, they perform exactly the same as the Sabrina 2s, especially when it comes to the forefoot cushioning. You do get a pretty responsive low-to-the-ground feel, so you're going to have a nice, lively feel under your foot. And along with the shank plate that you get in the midfoot, it gives you a nice springboard-like feel under your foot, so you're going to have a nice, bouncy, lively feel when it comes to the forefoot cushioning. In the heel, I did find it to be a little bit stiffer when it came to the overall feel that you get in the midsole itself. The Sabrina 2s to me felt like they were a little bit more softer when it came to the heel cushioning, but these do feel generally soft, but not as soft as the 2s. The heel compression is nice once you break it in, and when it came to impact protection, it was pretty solid when it came down to heel strikes. For fluidity, it does start off a little clunky with the back half of the shoe, but once you break it in a little bit, it actually does feel pretty fluid when it came to the overall heel to toe transition. So you're going to have a nice fluid transition once you break in the cushioning, and with the shank plate in the midfoot, it does give it a nice snap when you're going up and down the court. And the shoe itself is pretty light, so there isn't that much bogging you down when it comes to running up and down the court. So with the lightness of the shoe itself and the cushioning that you're going to get under you, it feels nice and fluid and pretty responsive and bouncy when it comes to the forefoot cushioning itself. So for the most part, they do feel exactly the same as the Sabrina 2s, but with a little bit of stiffness when it comes to the heel cushioning itself. Now, diving into the materials, it does get a little more simplistic compared to the Sabrina 2s, in my opinion, where you do get this engineered mesh material material with these stitched on patterns that you get on the top of the material itself, which is very flexible, and I didn't really have to break it in initially, so very flexible the moment you put them on. The midfoot has this screened mesh material that exposes the flywire cables here on the lateral and medial side of the shoe, which is pretty comfortable but very cheap at the same time. The tongue itself is made up of mesh at the base of the tongue itself with some leather on the top with some decent padding as well, so I didn't have any issues when it came to lace irritation throughout the lace line itself, and the padding on top of the tongue is adequate at the end of the day. And the same can be said with the padding that you get around the ankle collar as well as in the heel, which is pretty decent at the end of the day, and I didn't really have any issues when it came down to it. And the more you broke it in, the more it molds to the back, so it's very comfortable the more you break it in. Aesthetically, it is a very nice looking shoe, a little bit better than the Sabrina 2s in my opinion, and a lot more simplistic at that. I do like how the material exposes the flywire cables on the lateral side and goes all the way down into the midsole itself, and it does exactly the same on the medial side. And I also like the Nike logo with the diamond pattern embedded into it, which looks pretty cool in this silver metallic color, and the same is on the medial side, which is pretty cool. And I also like the detailing on Sabrina's logo on the top of the tongue. But the overall downside of the materials is that it is on the flimsy, cheaper side of things, so be mindful of that when it comes to the durability of the material itself. But overall, a very nice looking shoe compared to the rest of Sabrina's line. Now, when it comes to the lockdown, initially it felt average when it came down to it, but as I wore it more and more, it actually became very, very good. Now, in the forefoot, because of the snug feel that you get from the width, you're basically not going to be moving around inside the footbed. But because of the flimsiness of the materials, it does give you a little bit of give when it comes down to the overall play that you get inside the shoe. But overall pretty well when it came to the snug feel in the width. Because of the length, you do slide a little bit forward because of the extra length that you're going to get, but it isn't anything major. As far as the forefoot lockdown is concerned, it did get the job done very well. In the midfoot, you are going to get these flywire cables that go all the way to the bottom of the midsole itself, so you're going to have a very nice crank down feel, especially on the lateral side, and you are going to get some more flywire cables on the medial side to give it a more cinched down feel throughout the midfoot itself. And the tongue itself is a semi-gusseted tongue, so you're going to have a nice wrap around you when it comes to the wrapped feel that you're going to get inside the shoe, and combined with the flywire cables on both sides of the midfoot, it's going to give you a nice cinched down feel, which was very good the more I broke it in. In the heel, the ankle collar padding as well as the heel is basically sculpted to a point where it does cup the ankle as well as the Achilles, so the more you break the material in the heel, it actually improves the heel lockdown significantly, to the point where I got zero heel slippage once it molded around my Achilles and around the ankle collar. So when it came down to the ankle padding as well as the heel padding, the more you break it in, the more molded it goes around your foot, and essentially eliminating any heel slippage that you experienced initially. So overall, if you give the shoe a little bit of time to break in, especially when it comes to the back half of the shoe, it offers a very nice lockdown throughout the shoe itself, aside from a little sliding in the forefoot when it comes to vertical movements. But once you get to the midfoot and beyond, the flywire cables do what they're supposed to do and does it very well. And the more you mold the padding in the back, the better the heel lockdown becomes. So the more you play in it, the better the lockdown becomes. And lastly, when it comes to the support, it overall gets the job done for me, but it is very minimalistic when it comes down to it. Now, for the lateral support in the forefoot, you are going to get this protruding outrigger with this flange, as well as the midsole coming up into the material a little bit to give you some nice containment. But as you can see, it is very easy to give out, so the only line of defense after this starts contorting is the flange itself, which does protrude fairly well, so you are going to get some decent support here in the forefoot. In the midfoot, the midsole is basically exposed, so there isn't that much support from the midsole. You're basically relying on the material itself, which is pretty stiff, as well as this Nike logo that you get, which offers a little bit of rigidity when it comes to lateral support, but there really isn't that much outside of it. In the heel, the midsole does bulge up a little bit to give you a little bit more containment in the heel, and you also get an internal heel counter to give you some nice support in the heel section as well. So when it comes to overall lateral support, it's basically average with a missing chunk in the midfoot, which is kind kind of a disappointment, but gets the job done at the end of the day. As far as torsional support is concerned, you do get a top-loaded TPU shank, so you're going to get some nice rigidity in the midfoot while maintaining a reasonable amount of flexibility throughout the shoe, which is very easy to bend when it comes down to it. So most of the support is coming in the midfoot, and it's fairly easy to contort, but not as much to the point where you are going to roll your ankle at the end of the day. So you do get some pretty nice balance at that. And the base of the shoe is fairly wide in the forefoot as well as in the heel, and it is very flat, so you're going to have a nice flat platform to land on in the forefoot as well as in the heel. So overall, to me, when it comes to support, it's very minimalistic, just like the Sabrina 2s, where it is very flexible and very easy to contort, where you do get enough support torsionally, and the base is fairly wide. And the overall lateral stability when it comes to the support is good, but aside from the missing chunk that you get in the midfoot, which makes it very minimalistic, that way it maintains its flexibility when it comes down to the shoe itself. So to sum it up for you guys, the Sabrina 3s is another solid addition to Sabrina's signature line when it comes to the 1, 2, and now the 3. But they're very similar to the 2s in many respects, and at the same time, the 2s are a little bit better than the 3s in my opinion, especially when it comes to the traction. In this, it does perform like the 2s, but you have to go through a serious warm-up with the rubber itself. Cushioning does feel the same for the most part. However, the cushioning itself is a little stiffer in the 3s compared to the 2s. Materials are a little bit more flimsier with the overall mesh build that you get in the 3s, whereas in the 2s it does have mesh, but you do get more synthetic upper linings where it needs to be for more rigidity when it comes to the long run for the materials themselves. And the lockdown and the support is basically the same when it comes down to it. So if you want something like the 3s, I'll probably go with the 2s, especially now that they're going for way cheaper now, for like $70-$80 from what I have seen. And with the 3s being $135, with some being around $115, it doesn't really make that much sense to recommend these over the 2s because they perform exactly the same for the most part. So the 3s are a solid shoe. So if you like what the 2s felt for you, but you do like how the 3s look to you, go ahead when it comes to the 3s. But for overall performance and value that you're going to get, I would rather go with the Sabrina 2s when it comes to the Sabrina 3s. Thank you guys for watching this video. This has been my performance review on the Nike Sabrina 3s. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and comment down below on what you think of the Sabrina 3s. Are they similar to the 2s, or are the 2s better than the 3s, or vice versa? What is the best shoe in Sabrina's line as well? I'd like to know your thoughts on that, as well as any other questions that you might have for me. If you'd like to stay up to date with future videos that I'll be posting, hit the subscribe button down below. It will greatly support the channel as well. And if you do want to see my performance reviews on the Sabrina 1s as well as the Sabrina 2s, I will leave it on the corners of the screen right here. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, all of that information will be in the description box below. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your day. I hope this was beneficial to you guys. And until next time, keep shooting.